Actually, hello. Oh, okay, so we have 5 seconds lag. Okay, now we can start. And hello, welcome everyone. Flutter Nordics Meetup, and we will talk about Google I/O this time. What is Flutter Nordics Meetup? Actually, we just came up with this name. Majid from Norway. We actually wanted to organize some events with Flutter Helsinki, but then we realized that it could be really much better if we unite on Nordics. So hopefully we will have more Nordics countries together. For example, we opened this event also in Oslo meetup. So we are just starting, like mentioned many times in Google I/O. We are just starting. So actually, I would like to talk a bit more about Flutter Nordics meetup because we want to do more of these events. And this is the second one Volt is hosting. Earlier, Montel hosted, and I just joined at that time, so I don't know what happened before. But this is really a teamwork. Like Volt is hosting us, is providing us food, alcohol, anything we need. What do you need more? Anything? Okay, so what I mean is that we will have more of these events, and just Tom said that, promised that. I don't know if you talked to your boss, but yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So next we are organizing this in CodeMate, or the new name.
Rebel App Studio, which is like a Flutter consultancy brand. So yes.
Yes. Okay, so if you would like to organize what I want to say, just let us know. We have a closed group with organizers. This is really, it sounds like a too much work to set this up, but we are all together in this. We will help, we will find speakers. We will do more of these events, and we will be more countries in Nordics. And we would like to also help Majid organizing Flutter Vikings, which is happening in end of August. I applied for that. I don't remember the date. Okay, so let's continue. Yes, next slide. Ha. Okay, coming. Yes. Okay. So again, welcome. I just want to tell a few practicalities: food, drinks, toilets over there, and yeah, actually, if you write your name to this basket, there are papers. We have two bags there with some gifts from Volt, and yeah, these are the gifts. And do's and don'ts, these are actually for remote viewers. Actually, do you have any idea about how many people watched us in Christmas meetup? Any guess?
I think it was on the thousand.
It was 2,000 people watched us. It was really impressive.
Nice.
So whatever you say here will be watched by 2,000 people, hopefully.
Let's see if today we can beat that.
Yeah, yeah, we have more people, which means that we have so many opinions and discussions. Okay, these are for actually remote people. Please be nice, respectful on YouTube. Leave live chat, and then of course we check the comments. We will remove if something is offensive, rude. No advertising, no promoting, no spamming, no harassment. It's practical. And then presenters for today. Team Volt, actually I'm only from Team Volt, but actually there are more people behind, which helped me a lot to organize these things. IT team, our brand manager, thank them very much. And then Alessio, actually, he has all the program in his mind. I don't know what is waiting us. Of course, I know some things, but yeah, old school way, we have papers. And then Eralp will talk about embedding. Actually, Eralp, can you say what is your topic again?
Using web servers inside Flutter apps for mocking things.
Thank you very much. I said I don't know the agenda. Okay, I know the agenda. Yeah. And Mike,
Thanks, Shade. Yeah, I will be talking about theming your application, making it beautiful, making it look splendid, and also what of Material 3 is available today in Flutter 3. One would think that since it's Flutter 3, you would have Material 3, but not quite yet. But anyway, since Shate has a, I'm wearing a red hoodie, so I thought I have to wear a red hoodie here today. You recognize me.
And then we have Elliot here and Tom, so that this is going to be like a panel and all the discussions around. So let's continue. Because Volt is hosting us, and we would like to thank them with brief explanation about what we are. So you probably heard of Volt, of course, if you live in Finland. But if you are from Europe and Asia, in Japan, for example, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia. We are active in 23 countries and 250 cities. We have more than 5,000 people working with us, more than 400 people in our product team. We have more than 18 million users, 60,000 partners, and more than 130,000 partners. And we have pretty good rated apps on Play Store, App Store, and Google Play. So briefly from Volt, 2015 was founded, and then it is now active in 23 countries. So actually, when I joined the retail team, they just started retail team, and I joined as an Android developer. Then I started doing Flutter with the Flutter project. So we are also active in retail, coming here. So many people knows Volt from delivering food, but actually it is more than that. We are active in retail and also quick commerce with Volt Markets. Finally, the goal is whole city delivered within minutes. But actually, we have apps, customer app, native iOS and Android, courier app, React Native app, and we have merchant app for restaurants for tablet, and then picker app for with Flutter, again for in-store operations. We have small teams. Each team is like a mini startup. Each team knows the customers best. They choose the technology they use. Don't ask me why they use React Native, because they know better. They know better the customer. They know better the needs. They started in 2015, so it's a long history. And with in-store operations, we started with Flutter in 2020, I guess. Yeah, so each team is with engineers, designers, analysts, and product leads. Finally, we are hiring for Flutter engineers. If you would like to apply, it's available on volt.com. So thank you, Volt, for sponsoring us today for food and drinks. And now, Flutter 3.
So let's start from Google I/O. And first question for you is, how many of you watched Google I/O? Raise your hand. Okay. And how many of you watched the Flutter side of Google I/O? All the videos they were released on day 2, 10 videos for Flutter. And I was personally a little bit surprised because I thought that it would have been a 2 days live streaming, but the second day it came as a surprise to me that basically they just released the video. And the keynote was actually the whole keynote was very nice to watch for me, at least, because there were a lot of hardware presented. So we got I have notes here because I can't otherwise remember everything. But we saw the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro, and they were they will come out this fall. So this year, a little bit later on, they will come out. And what is surprised me is that they have already the second generation of the Google Tensor, which is the chip that they have made for the Pro 6 and for the Pixel 6. Then they will release the 6A, which was expected. So it's like as you know, a phone that is the cheaper version of the 6 and the 6 Pro. And this will come in the end of July. And that also come with the Tensor, which is the SoC that is already on the 6 and on the 6 Pro. Then they will release the Pixel Watch. And there was already something that people have been waiting quite a long time. And again, it will happen only in this fall. It doesn't happen immediately. Then they will release the Pixel Bud Pro, which they will be released at the end of July together with the 6A. And then eventually they also announced the tablet. I don't know who of you got excited about the tablet. Okay, so I'm not the only one. Okay, because when I saw that they presented the tablet, I was a little bit uh, confused initially because of the form factor. Like at home, I have a Pixelbook or Chromebooks. I have tablets. I have, of course, phone, and then I have also Mac. So in 2022 to actually 2023 to come up with again a tablet, it's quite a statement in a sense. And also the tablet will have the Google Tensor. So this really made me think. So this is how I read it. I don't know if you have a different view on this, but what I saw, it's a lot of devices released. Not everyone coming out immediately. The earlier one will come out in few months, and then the rest will come out at the end of the year. So it's kind of definitely type of marketing in a sense, which is expected from Google I/O. And the most exciting part, at least for me, I don't know how you guys saw that, is that they all use the Google Tensor to provide in the device calculation that before that it wasn't possible. So they have a lot of they talked a lot about machine learning. There was machine learning anywhere. At least this is how I perceived it, right? And there was a lot of machine learning in the device and things that weren't possible before. The Google couldn't have a hand on the SoC and on the CPU. Any comment on this? Like, do you agree or disagree with this type of idea? Go ahead, take a mic.
So about the tablet, I find it a bit odd that the tablet that comes in 2023 is going to be running on the first generation of the Tensor CPU.
Yes.
And I think what happened is that during COVID, especially in the early days, there was a massive spike in demand for tablets. People were buying them for their kids, for watching movies, Netflix on the couch, and so on. And it seems like this product was probably developed a bit earlier, but they couldn't release it due to the component shortage. And there's still a massive component shortage, and that's why they still can't immediately launch it in this year. So they have to delay it even one more time. And that's why it looks a bit odd that like tablets are again kind of dropping popularity slightly because we're back to going out and going to offices. But yeah, this probably was conceptualized a bit earlier. But the consistency of CPUs between different devices doesn't spread to the watch though, because watch actually uses a bit older CPU. And again, exactly because of that reason of the component shortage. They use the same CPU as Galaxy Watch 4, I believe, which came out like a year ago or so. So they were really constrained by availability of components, yet they were trying to make the best devices possible. And I think given the chance, they probably wouldn't want to put the latest and greatest CPU in their budget device. But again, it's just cheaper to do it that way, to reuse components from an older, like a earlier generation device, and also like mass-produced chips, than having a separate version for lower tiered hardware. And we saw the same approach with Apple, which released iPhone SE2 or whatever they call it, which also uses the same CPU as the latest iPhone in a cheaper device. So I think it's literally, they call it a parts binning approach, where you take parts from your existing lineup and reuse it across different devices.
That's definitely a good point, which is it's something like, if I think about the Pixel 6a, they did exactly the opposite. Like they try to put decent components at a very, very low price. For me, it reminds me of the Nexus time, actually, more than the Pixel, honestly. And the tablet, instead, it was a very different kind of. I got really puzzled by the fact of the tablet. I didn't think about what you're saying now, which is very interesting, because the tablet, what I learned is that they're trying to go to the high end. So they're trying to enter the market with a maybe more expensive and maybe bigger screen tablet, which is something that other competitors are already doing. For instance, Samsung, but also others. And my way of thinking is like, at least I'm used to think about the Pixel line as something that is innovative, something that is really kind of breaking through and showing the possibilities. But now with 1 year delay and the fact maybe like you say that they use let's say like kind of decent component, but maybe not the best. Still, I can't get what is the strategy, because they're entering a market which is already saturated, and also which is already kind of maybe declining or not booming as before, like the tablet. And they're entering 1 year later with something that it doesn't, at least from what I see and what I saw, doesn't really dictate the line. Like, yes, huge bezels, which I'm totally fine with and totally okay with. So I'm puzzled, and I see similarities with the Pixel Watch. Pixel Watch, everyone has been waiting for that for long time and many years. And now that they enter the Pixel Watch space or the smartwatch space, which is again, I see it as declining, as not very interesting. There have been a lot of money in that area, but not there is a lot of potential, but not really exploited. Yeah, go ahead.
I have some insights on that. So
Go.
with Pixel Watch, they obviously acquired Fitbit recently,
Yes.
about 7 months ago or so. In fact, a few days ago, they announced that they got a new hire, an ex-executive from FDA, the health regulator in the US, is going to be joining Google to work on the health initiatives. And it all kind of comes together. It's a very consistent strategy of having hardware, software, and all of the components you need for Google to operate in the health space. And we even see that partially in Flutter. Because Flutter, one of the goals for 2022 that they declared was to have so-called software supply chain safety. And the way you need that is when you build medical grade software and medical devices to actually pass through regulatory approval. And so now they have FDA executives, a hardware, software platform, a new Health Connect tool to connect different data sources, and the reference hardware, which is basically the watch, that then they could pass to their partners to create an ecosystem of connected medical devices and near medical devices in wellness domain, for example. So it does make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the higher strategy that they have as Google as a company, which we don't see.
With the tablets, though, let's hope that Google has learned the lesson since the last failure, that for it to succeed, they have to build beautiful user interfaces that are actually designed for tablets. The reason why it failed previously was because, iPad, beautiful apps that are designed for that larger surface, and we never saw that on the Android tablets. So people kind of skipped it and moved on. I hope now we will start seeing and that they put some effort in that. And I think we will, because with all the foldable phones and things like that, that also drives a little bit to the same thing, because you are then dealing with the larger surface and designing for that already. And everybody here who's doing Flutter knows that making adaptive Flutter applications is really simple. So there is no reason to not make it scale to a larger surface when we were building with Flutter. But all right, that's just a small comment.
One question though, how is Nest device is different than tablet? It looks like Nest. I mean, I was expecting a really nice design, industrial design. I'm talking about this tablet. It looks horrible in my opinion. Okay, it's just the beginning, but if you compare it with an iPad.
Can you come into the picture? That's Shate speaking out of frame.
Please join us.
Yeah, I just couldn't stop because I mean, you're introducing tablets and it is not appealing because there is a much better alternative.
I agree. Everybody uses iPads when they want a tablet.
Yes. So long way to go. I think maybe it's just, as I said in the beginning, it is just the beginning. They are just starting. So many things they are catching up from hardware point, I think, because Apple is really winner in that hardware.
And this actually brings me to, I think, what I think it's a core point here. So I actually bought at home this Google Home device. Do you know what I'm talking about? This Google Nest, before it was called Google Home. And about the very first generation, just because I heard one morning that Google released the news that they were bringing that to support Fuchsia. Does everyone...
Wait a second. Is there a native English speaker here?
Does everyone know about...
Tom, how do you say Fuchsia? Fuchsia.
I say Fuchsia, but...
Fuchsia.
Fuchsia. Fuchsia.
They pronounce it Fuchsia, but they pronounce it the Latin way, Fuchsia. It's okay. And how many of you raise your hand or say something, know what is Fuchsia?
Fuchsia, maybe, yes.
Okay, so want me to...
Please order remote also, not only here.
Okay, so basically Fuchsia is the next generation OS coming from Google, and it's extremely interesting. I've been following it since a few years now. I found it extremely interesting because it's based on two main ideas. One is the security. So they have already, as you know, Android and Chrome OS, which is based on Linux kernel. But Google realized that the Linux kernel has security flaws. So they decide to take instead a microkernel or a lightweight kernel and then take it, fork it, and make their own tweak out of it. And that's the very core of Fuchsia.
I just want to add one thing.
Oh yeah, sure.
Do you know Adam Barth?
Who?
Adam Barth.
No.
Okay, if you Google or YouTube, if you check YouTube and write rendering pipeline, he has amazing talk about how Flutter works, how does the rendering pipeline work, because he's the person who has the first commit to Flutter in GitHub. You can see that. Yes, and actually he is now in Fuchsia team. Yeah, it is really exciting to me because Flutter was a big success, and they are actually, but still, I was expecting, and many of us were expecting to hear at least something. They still didn't mention the name.
I was very disappointed myself. I was
Yes.
waiting and waiting and waiting. All the videos I went through, I was just trying to catch any hint of Fuchsia, but they just ignore it completely. But I think it's okay because we need to remember that to develop an entire kernel from scratch, it takes really a huge effort, and it takes a lot of amount of time. Like Linus Torvalds in Helsinki University in the 90s made this public Linux kernel, as everyone knows, I assume. So that has been calculated that if any private company would like to redo the Linux kernel, it would be impossible because there were so many contributions from all over the world and in their free time because it's open source.
So wait, why does Fuchsia excite you? Because you can use Dart, you can code with Dart, and it works everywhere, right? Also, you can code with Rust, if I'm not wrong.
You're right. You're right.
And then C, C++.
Yeah, it's a C and C++ for the network layer and the very high performant layer. So kind of whatever you want to build. And then there is or there should be support for Rust. There is support for Dart and Flutter, as Flutter is the primary way to deliver UI on Fuchsia. So anything that you want to draw on Fuchsia will be Flutter. And there is one more, but now it doesn't come to mind.
Okay. So
and what I wanted to say about Fuchsia is that going back to software and hardware, it's that Fuchsia it's a microkernel, so it will be modular in a sense that if you run it not on your laptop but in some IoT device or something like that, then you don't really need to have all the modules up and running. So you will have a very few subset of modules running, and then if you instead want to have the laptop experience or the tablet or the phone and so forth, you will have instead much more module running.
okay.
So
okay.
this
Fuchsia is not really part of Google I/O. Should we continue? Sorry, I interrupted, but maybe we talked too much about it.
But it's no, it's okay. We can continue, but there is one point that is very interesting because I keep on hearing people asking me, so what about if Google
Kills.
or cancel Flutter? What about if Google kill Flutter? What about if this and that?
Yes.
And honestly, my way of thinking is that I think that Apple it's a little bit ahead of Google in the integration in between software and hardware. And this is the point that I also saw in Google I/O, that what I read is that there was a lot of hardware and there was also a lot of innovation in the software. But where it really got the strength was when they were talking about what they can do with the software when they have control of the hardware. So with the SOC and the Tensor second generation. I think Apple it's ahead of this. It's a little bit ahead. And Google knows. Microsoft, I think, doesn't understand it yet. But I think Google understand that they need to catch up with this. They have no other choice in the immediate future. I mean, maybe 5 or 10 years from now, they need to be on that solution space or on that area. And to be in that area, the only way that they've been thinking about that we know, at least it's Fuchsia. There is no other way around. And because of this, Fuchsia, it's a must. Of course, they can cancel it even tomorrow, but I will be okay with it. But I think it won't happen. And if they don't cancel Fuchsia, then Flutter will be a must, obviously, because it's as I said, the primary way to develop UI on Fuchsia. Now, this given, and given the fact that Fuchsia will support all the formats, so from IoT all the way to laptops and watches and all of that, it means that Flutter, it's very important that it's a UI toolkit that can cover all this. And we saw it in some of the talks of the Google I/O. We saw how they were trying to explain to people how they can build responsive UI. By the way, how many people build the responsive UI already? Raise your hands up. So when you code a list, do you have in your mind that even if you're coding for the phone, your UI should still be adapting to a larger screen, being laptop or tablet? And do you maybe test even I don't know if you have the emulator, you can make it, or like when I do sometimes in the Chromebooks, you can just resize your screen as you want. So sometimes I take my mobile format, but then I just enlarge it to just have a quick look.
Doesn't everybody build with desktop as target these days? It's so much quicker.
Do you? Who does?
Actually, I heard that people, when they are building for web, they are using Mac. Actually, it was Tom I heard from. You're using Mac OS for testing web.
Yes, yeah. When we were building the Moi app for web, we because you don't get hot reloads on web, we used a Mac app. Yeah, and it worked really well.
Because web doesn't have hot reload.
Yes, yeah. Web has no hot reload, and also kind of it's just nicer and quicker and developing on the Mac, and like you get, fundamentally what you need is a resizable window, right? Like it doesn't matter how you get that. So yeah, we just developed it as a Mac app, and then made sure it worked on web as well. So yeah.
Do you want to share with us a little bit of how was it difficult to do that? Was it difficult to support the mobile and other formats? So what were the challenges? Because you have a great experience there.
The challenges, I mean, they were divided into two. One was doing the responsive UI, which we kind of had to make up a bit because not many people have been doing that at that time. So that was kind of interesting, and we experimented with kind of lots of different ways of doing that, because there's kind of no one right way, and lots of different ways worked better depending on kind of what the page was and how the UI was shared across desktop and the mobile design. And then the other thing was kind of any native integration. So things like the payment card integration needed completely rewriting because we used a web view on mobile, but then we, already have a web view on the web, so didn't need a web view. And yeah, so it was doing those bits of integration. Yeah, and also working around the navigator, but I've talked enough about Flutter navigation. I'm not going to go back into that today.
But maybe tell to people that don't know you here what about navigation. Just mention it. Come on, mention it. Say the name.
Oh, well, okay. I've got a what?
No. Root master.
Yeah, I've got a root master.
I'll talk to him later on.
Yeah, we'll take him outside and yeah. I'm never using water again. So that's not true. Yeah, I've got I do a package called Rootmaster, which is one of a Flutter favorite. Yeah, I know, right? I still can't quite believe that.
So we have two Flutter favorite packages.
We do?
Yeah.
Wow.
1 and 2.
The bar is really low if they gave both you and me one.
It's unbelievable. I don't know.
That's
Same
crazy.
time as well.
Yes, same
Wow.
time.
Yeah,
I'm actually honored to sit here.
I nearly fell off my chair when I got the email for that.
And if any one of you that don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Root Master is how the British people call the red bus in London. Isn't
Oh,
it?
we can get really geeky about that. It's the old London buses.
Yeah, the
they're
old one, the one
Yes.
with 2 floors, right?
Yes. I mean,
I've been there in the 90s.
Yes. Yeah, they were still running then.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
shouldn't have been. Yeah, they were. They broke down all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like the classic old London bus.
Yes.
And yeah,
And that's where the name is coming from.
yes, I regret calling it that now because like it sounds like I got called like the master of roots the other day, and I'm like,
Master
that's
of
the
roots.
package and not me. But yeah,
But
naming things is hard.
I have one extra question for you,
Uh-huh.
because you were saying before that when you were experimenting with different approaches for responsiveness, which
Uh-huh.
one did you eventually choose? Can
Lots
you,
of them.
Can you?
Yeah, not one.
Okay,
like,
so you're using a hybrid of approaches.
two main ones. One is where we just have two separate pages.
Layouts.
Yeah. So the like the homepage, for example, is such a different layout that there are just two. But then they do share some components,
Of
which
course.
then are responsive depending on the platform they're running.
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
So it's a mixture of those two, of having responsive individual widgets and then different page layouts as well. So yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
And kind of makes me think, did you, Mike, see what there was one video in between the many of the Flutter video, that 10 of them. There was one video where they wait, I have to look it up.
I think
I
it's
think
the
it's
one
this,
with the roadist.
No, yes.
Yeah.
So the beautiful, simple UI with Flutter,
Yeah.
which it was amazing video. But there is a one point. So what they do in that video, they show a very kind of like boring up, so to speak, and then they show you how to polish it on the UI and how to use the typography and how to use the material tree and all of that. But what it surprises me is that at one point at the very beginning they show the mobile format, and then they show the desktop format or the tablet format. And in this transition, they basically they want to have some different sidebar and layout. Did you see that point?
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's what they're doing is quite simple. They just have a navigation bar layout, and then they switch when it goes over a certain width to having a bottom navigation bar. It's really the basic things. What sort of disappointed me a little bit is there is no nice animated transition. It just switches.
And that point reminded me of your
yeah, we will see some of that where we have some animated transitions in that today as well.
do you want already to?
No, in a minute when I start the presentation, you will see that. Sure, why not?
Tell us what you think about that video, because I thought, knowing you and
that video is really nice because it talks a lot about the new material tree theming and also a new web application that is available that you can use to design a material tree color scheme. And that theme builder, they call it, is really helpful when you want to do that, because otherwise to define a material tree color scheme, which I will talk more about in a few minutes, is quite tedious. And there's a number of ways you can define material tree color schemes, but there is also a large number of ways you can use your color scheme in a theme data object. And depending on how you do this, you may end up with something that is pretty or something that looks like crap. So I will talk about that and show you what to do and what not to do.
And by the way, I found the theme builder was brilliant. And at one point inside the theme builder, there is the theme provider. I don't know if you noticed. How did they implement that? Did you see?
Yeah, they had actually mixed in pretty much everything in there. They had inherited widgets, they had block, they had, oh my God.
Inherited block,
and it's like they wanted to have every state management you have invented in the same app. I was like, why? But okay, I guess they are just it's a teaching app to show different ways of doing same things.
How you make the best apps, isn't it? The more state management packages, the better the app.
Yeah.
That's what I go for. Yeah.
all mixed together.
Yeah.
An average Flutter app would have at least 20.
Pity we can't use like 5 navigators.
You can if you want, but but what was your guys' favorite thing in like Flutter 3? Did you have like any? Do you have any favorites?
I got one.
Yeah. What's your
theme extensions?
Oh yeah.
That one is really good. I will touch upon that
Yes,
as well.
I want to know about those because
Yeah.
I've got to do. I've been doing something
Yeah.
that might really benefit from that
Yeah.
actually. So yeah.
So that actually came out a little bit before Google I/O. Craig LeBens, he did a YouTube video about it. Really nice talk. You should check that out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
For me, what I was happy about
Uh-huh.
was the enum enhancement.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know.
I got
about-
that in my app today also.
to show it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So basically, long story short, the enum in Flutter before was very simple. It was basically only strings, and you can't do much more about it.
Mhm.
And now you can do the classical stuff that you would expect from an enum. So basically, you can create instances and methods and all of that you could do before, but it was just not with an enum. It was with extensions and all of that. And I have to say honestly, this is my personal opinion. I like this approach. I a lot of people that at least the one that I hear, some of them they're very hyped by Kotlin and very powerful languages that come with a lot of how to say like pluggability, so to speak. But I prefer honestly Dart. I like Dart because it's very simple, and I don't mind if a GNOME was a limitation before, because I like when the improvements are made like this, that they are done slowly and consistently, so to speak. I know it's a little bit.
There were lots of things in the release that were not as obvious, but deliver quality of life improvements. One problem I had with Flutter version 2 and before is that the persistent junk on iOS, missed frames, the performance was not as smooth and as good as on Android. And first thing I've noticed when I updated some of my projects to Flutter 3 is that the performance on iOS improved. It
Was it tangible?
It's tangible, and basically without the shader warm-up, I started getting performance and experience similar to what you had in version 2 with shader warm-up. And I haven't actually experimented what would happen if you warm up shaders with version 3, but I imagine you would have a really good performance. Second, the performance profiling tools improved a bit. So now we have checkboxes for disabling expensive widgets, such as transparency, some of the animated effects, allowing to giving you more precision and allowing you to find performance issues easier. And it's very exciting what's coming next, because they didn't talk about it at all. They didn't even mention that thing in the changelogs, but they started working on the new rendering engine.
Impeller.
Impeller, yeah. I've tried to enable it for one of my projects. It totally didn't work. Like, it just broke the whole app. But some people claim that they notice really good performance gains on iOS. So if we Flutter on iOS is still not perfect, but it's promising that Flutter team recognizes the issues and actively investing and working on it. And I honestly did not expect them to start writing the whole new rendering pipeline, which is bloody impressive.
Just one question.
And it's the type of changes I want to see.
Hmm.
Honestly, I don't care much about syntactic sugar, but this is very
Yeah.
good one.
I have one question. You mentioned, and we hear a lot about like people complaining from iOS shader. We have Flutter apps in production. Anybody suffers from iOS junk issue? Jank. Junk. Okay, jank issue. Okay. Okay, iOS jank issue. Okay. Because we didn't hear anything from our customers about that.
It's subtle. It depends what kind of device you use. If you use a slightly older device, you might see it more often, or if you use actually a newer ones with high refresh rate screens. It depends. In 19, like, the customers are going to be happy more or less. I mean, Flutter apps still look beautiful, are easy to build and easy to use. The animated, the material widgets are nice, nicely animated and intuitive. Sure. However, if you put the Flutter app side by side with an app done in Swift UI, you still see a slight difference in the way how scrolling performs. You still see slight difference, slight delays when animations are launched. It's good. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
It's fantastic, and your customers are going to be happy. But if we're talking from this perfectionist perspective,
Exactly.
it still can do better.
And this is why the customer app for Vault is native, and B2B app for Vault is Flutter.
Because your B2B customers,
Yeah.
they care about making money and optimizing their processes. For them, slight delay in animation is not going to be a deal breaker. Whereas your customers are, somebody is going to notice and probably going to leave you a nasty review on App Store.
Yes. Tom, you are doing consultancy, right?
Yes.
Yes. So you have iOS you have customers who has iOS apps.
Mhm.
How is the feedback?
Never heard any complaints about
At
jank.
all.
About Jank.
at all?
Yeah,
No.
I mean in general about iOS performance.
Absolutely fine. Like,
Yeah.
and when I was just saying that we have some jank, yes, we do, or we did. It's completely gone. And I was just talking to Alexander, who I'm currently working with on a project of an app that we haven't released yet. But we actually had a bit of weird jank going on that I've been meaning to like look into for ages.
But was it iOS
But
specific?
it was iOS specific,
Okay.
yes, but it's completely gone.
Okay.
Compile it with 3.0 and it's vanished, which I was so happy about because I
Nice.
knew that I was going to lose like 2 days of performance profiling to that.
Wait, 3.0 it is gone?
3.0 is completely gone.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
completely gone. They said that the performance changes were quite like minor, but no, right, like we had. I don't know why quite I think we maybe just had quite a lot of like transparency or something, which can be very expensive,
Sugar,
and
yes.
like any framework can end up struggling with if you go, maybe
Yeah.
we just went a bit too crazy. But yeah, it's all gone, and yeah, the new rendering engine, like that's really exciting. I really don't understand. Like I looked at the GitHub repo for it, and there's a lot of stuff there. But like my colleague Gero, who knows about shaders and things, is really excited.
Okay,
about
so
it, so
about impeller.
Yes.
Anybody has any idea or research about impeller? So is it a replacement for Skia or
yeah, it's
total
right?
replacement for
It's a replacement
Skia?
for Skier completely. Yeah,
Is it-
yeah. Which-
Are you sure about it?
What?
Yeah,
Total
yeah, yeah,
replacement?
yeah.
This
Yeah,
would be really surprising
Okay.
to me because
It
Skia
is.
has been there since 2005 and it is proven to work. And
Yes.
now they are,
And it works in Chrome.
yes. So
and-
how
And it works in Android.
is it iOS specific, this impeller? Okay.
Yeah. But I think the plan is that it's not like it's going to be for everything. Is it? I don't know. Like, yeah. Right. Yeah.
I haven't seen any plans of them releasing it anywhere other than iOS, but yeah, it's definitely going to be iOS first.
Yeah.
The main problem is addressing the iOS performance issues.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
why they're doing it. It's actually kind of funny because when you think about this, both Flutter and Dart started as attempts to slightly modify and rewrite existing technologies that underperformed in certain areas, and they ended up growing into this massive, very
Which one?
successful.
Tell
Well,
us which one.
Dart was an attempt to improve JavaScript initially. Flutter was an attempt to experiment what would happen with the web platform if you take out all the legacy and start from
And you know they
blank
started,
page.
they started from Chrome.
Yes, so you take Chrome, you throw away all the web DOM and
Everything?
stuff, and see what happens.
And actually, Adam Bart, again, who has the first commit, he was actually working on web
Yes.
engine rendering.
And now we take Skia, look
Uh-huh.
for the source code. It's like, what if we start all over again and get rid of the stuff we don't need?
It's quite amazing. Like the like it feels like the Flutter team's commitment to like just redoing things that aren't perfect is
But
like
that's how you improve. That's how you improve, right?
Wait, I think it's not all about redoing because if it was really about redoing, we wouldn't use this drawing text from Android AOSP. So because now Flutter is using AOSP text drawing, right? Yes, it's open source. Yes, it's open source. It's C++. Skia was there, C++. So they could have written those things in Dart, but they just reused which was there, which was proven to work, which was open source already. Yeah, but I mean the best thing is that like they are really working with cutting edge. Like they are trying really hard.
You know, it would be funny if they rewrite the engine from scratch in Pillar and then eventually figure out that probably would be better to port it to Chrome. Just close the
and,
circle.
then the circle is closed.
Okay, let's go.
But this bring me to this. I don't know if you saw this video. It's titled it's Web Apps with Flutter, a love letter to modern browsers.
It was amazing
Have you
video.
seen- have you seen
really
it?
good video?
I want hands up who saw it.
Web apps.
So if you haven't seen it, just when you go home, make me a favor, just watch it.
I think it was for 101, Web 101,
It's like
Yeah.
maybe 25 minutes, not too long.
13 minutes.
30 minutes.
I just watched it
short, so
yesterday.
short.
Yes.
Okay.
Check your YouTube settings. You might be playing videos and have to sleep.
As low as I
Off
am.
speed.
And it's amazing. Basically, is this guy, which I don't remember the name. do
Kevin
you?
was it?
I don't,
not
I don't
Kevin,
remember.
right?
But basically, it's amazing because it goes to how the web was in 2002, and then it shows how the web is now, and then he explain what is the journey that he has been they've been doing with Flutter, and we bringing Flutter to the web as an alternative technology to the HTML, CSS, and the DOM based technologies, and instead they want to use WebAssembly and then Dart and what else? WebGL, definitely. And it goes. Sorry. Yeah, for you, sure. And it goes all the way to even give us a hint of what is coming in the future. And I'm really thrilled by that. I don't know about people here, but let's put this in perspective. I honestly think that the web is severely broken. This is my kind of uncompromised taken over it. And I think that Flutter attempt to cover the web, which, as we know, the web for Flutter, it's not. We know that Flutter is limited on the web, but still, it's quite successful as an alternative to the, let's say, HTML-based web. And the fact that it's successful, it's already an indicator and an indication that the web itself it can be improved big time. Because I think if a technology is successful, then no one will come and try to compete with you. But if you aren't successful, then new technology will come and try to take the space.
I slightly disagree with you. I
That's
think
okay.
the web is fantastic and it gave us lots of innovations and the ecosystem is remarkably vibrant. I mean,
Yeah,
Flutter is
totally.
largely inspired by React, let's be honest, and
Heavily inspired.
heavily inspired by React. And it's interesting that they're trying to contribute back to the web community and also working closely, for example, with teams and consortiums that develop WebAssembly and helping to bring garbage collection to WebAssembly. So
Yes.
it's more about changing your thinking a bit and thinking about the browser as a place to launch apps rather than a place to look at the websites. And if you think about a browser as an app launcher, then it makes a lot of sense. An app being, an app framework just belongs there really well. And in the
Yes.
future, hopefully you'll be able to pick, whatever technology stack fits your problem, the business profile you're trying to solve better, and use the programming language, the UI framework, whatever you want for solving a specific business objectives, and then ship it to anyone on the web on the open platform, not restricted or limited by Apple, but Google, even Google. No stores, no commissions, just one link away from the customer.
No stores is dangerous, but well,
Is it though?
it is. It is.
But web has been fantastic and vibrant.
Yeah,
and
web is fine, but it's sandboxed. So
It is
so
sandboxed.
it depends on the app. If the app can be sandboxed, then it's fine for no store.
which
If the app can't be sandboxed for whatever reason, like for instance interaction, then it's a different story, and you need stores.
all the apps on iOS are sandboxed. And
Yes,
they've been doing well.
Well, again,
And
it's
so
a
we
different
can
system.
have a sandbox, safe and secure environment,
Yes.
which is still open to anyone who wants to build on the top of it. You can connect people all around the world, and at the same time give developers a choice of what technology they want to use. So it's remarkably
Sure.
ambitious, but yet inspiring idea. And the fact that Flutter is present on the web, again, opens a lot of doors for us as developers to build awesome experiences that we can again deliver to any customers on any platform, no matter where they are and what they do. And also, contribution to the overall web platform is inspiring.
Lovely. And after this, I'm told that we need to. This will be excellent point for you to start the presentation.
Thank you. We are going to move over to presentations now, and Alessio, if I could bother you with the headset, I
Yeah,
think
sure.
I need that so I can speak more freely during
More
the
than happy.
presentation.
Do you know why I gave the headset to Alessio? Because he's Italian. He needs to use his hands. By the way, okay, I don't need to use a microphone, but Fridge is here. Please get some drinks while we are preparing for the next talk.
All right. Can you all hear me? All right. Thank you. So we will get back to this debate and talk, but now I think it's time to switch over the pace a little bit and move over to some presentations. My name is Mike, and I'm going to talk about Flutter App Theming. I'm mostly sort of a Flutter enthusiast. I do work for a company called Eneron. We make applications to make facilities and buildings more energy efficient. So that's sort of my day job. But I've been active and working with Flutter since 2018 and using it. I started actually more in high speed in maybe 2019, but still been around for a while in the Flutter community. And you might recognize me if you are on Twitter and looking about what's happening about Flutter. You might see me tweeting about Flutter every now and then, quite often actually, way too much. I should have a life. So today I will touch about some topics that I like a lot, and that is Flutter theming, the right way to make theme data in Flutter. I will talk about color scheme and the new things about in the Material Tree color scheme. We will look about seeded color scheme, how that replaces what you can do, and with the how you really can get the full color set from just a single color. And at that point, I think we'll have a short break and maybe have another presentation in between. And I'll move over and cover what is available now in Flutter 3 of all the Material Tree features, and what is still pending and coming up. And we already heard mentioned theme extensions. I last night threw in a theme extension in this demo app, so we will be able to see that as well. And of course, time permitting, I will show you the easiest way to make a theme, and that of course would be, for a shameless plug, to use Flex Color Scheme, a package that I wrote that I will also be showing. But what is then the right way, and why should you theme an application? And as the way I see it, when you make the theme the right way for your app, you're really making Flutter work for you and not against you. If you are not doing this, you have to sort of fight the framework all the time in things it wants to do and how it wants to present it. I see so many times applications written like, oh, we make our own design system and we have a bunch of constants and we use them around, everywhere in our app, and that's my theme. Yeah, it works, but that's not the way you should do it. And to show you why you should not do it that way, let's take this little application that I call the theme playground. It's a part of it, but when you look at an app like this, I call this the most dynamic themable Flutter application in the world. I think it is. I'm not sure, but I think so, because if you take a look at this application, you will find you have a large amount of themes. You can go dark mode, but it's not only that. You can, if we go into, now I'm finding myself around here a little bit, to component themes, we can do things like switch up the border radius of elements. That is happening in real time. And when I do this, how many components am I changing for this to start happening in these applications? 0, not a single one. What is happening is that as I drag this thing that changes the border radius on a bunch of widgets, and actually this changes the shape border on all themable component widgets that has a shape border and gives them a new shape border. And every single time I'm doing that, Flutter is in the background creating a new theme and updating it. That one is so ugly. Let's get that Flutter dash theme here. And other things you can do is like, now I have the seeded color scheme on, I can take that off. And no, where is my cursor there? Nope. So of course, people talked about responsive apps. So this one is of course that as well. So when you stretch and drag things around it, it will change everything. Effective components. So, but that's why it's really critical. If you don't do this, you don't get all these features from it, and all the themes are being applied to every component in it. If you take the buttons, it's not clicking so well, but if I want to change just one button, we can do that as well. And what's happening at the same time, if you take a look, it's also writing the code that I need for this at the same time while I'm changing this. You can see the number flashing a little bit there on the side. But okay, so that's why it's important to theme. And when you are using themes, you can also see colors animate. I can illustrate that one going into the input colors here. when I let's take away the seeded color scheme also, because that a little bit destroys it, the effect. Did I get it away? Apparently not. There we go. I don't know. Probably my laptop is really throttling, because this is. I don't have enough memory in this to show everything. That is, this laptop is. This is overheating the laptop here at the moment. I have it on a fan. Otherwise, it's a Windows laptop. That's probably the that's probably the best reason for it all. So when you change the theme, you can see also the colors animate. Oh, it's not registering clicks. That's one of the problems. And that's because that's what the theme data does for you when you do it. And it's not really that janky when you get into resizing it. It's just this mouse is having problems actually registering clicks for me. All right. So that is why it's important to theme the applications. If you don't do that and you change, you have the constants and things like that, yeah, you can get it to switch the theme, but you don't get the smooth transitions, the animations from one size to another one. And that answers that a little bit. If you're interested in reading more about theming, I have also written a guide on it. You can find it on the Docs Flex color scheme. It's just general theming guidance and advice on theming that you can read about. The same is available in a blog. To step back a little bit to the basics about theme data, it can be very confusing working with theme data. So there are roughly, depending on how you count, 10 different ways of defining the colors for your theme data. And if you do it wrong, you're going to end up with a color scheme that doesn't look quite right. And you have all seen the basic one. You do the default theme, the theme data light and the theme data dark. That gives you the blue, the standard Material 2 blue app that we all know and have seen a lot of. And then you can create a theme data from something called a material color swatch. In Material 1, that was the way that is available. And you can also create the theme data from a color scheme where you create the color scheme from a swatch. That's kind of odd. We will see what that means. And then you have a factory constructor called theme data from, and you can use that with also the color scheme from swatch, and you're going to see that creates quite a funky looking one. And then you come to the more pure one where you just use a color scheme. You have defined your entire color scheme and you create your theme data using that. And again, you have the theme data from factory and using the color scheme. And a new factory is called theme data color scheme seed. And that one also gives you some colors. We will look at that. And then you can create the theme data with a color scheme from seed, and then theme data from color scheme from seed. See, there's a lot of them. And then the one you can do is, forget about this. These are confusing. I'll just use theme data raw and start putting things in there and see what we can do.
How many parameters does this constructor have?
Oh, this theme data constructor, it's a factory constructor. There is like 40 or something like that in it. It's crazy. So it's quite, it's not difficult, but it's complex. There's a lot of moving parts. That makes it sort of a little bit tricky. And these ones I like to call material color swatch based. And these are then scheme based, and the theme data is whatever you make of it. So when you make a theme, let's take material 3 colors that we can find in the material 3 guide, and take one color, the primary as a seed, and make an old style swatch from it as well. And these are the theme data, the color scheme colors. And when you extract the colors, you get a bunch of different color data for color scheme that you can use. When I could show them in the app, but to speed it up a little bit, I have them all here as slides as well. This is the default construction for the swatch. You have all seen this. You get a blue color scheme and a dark color scheme, and the dark color scheme is actually not okay. This is a bad dark color scheme. It's gray. It's not dark. And this existed before Material 2 specification was made that actually specified what a dark color scheme should look like. Other thing to put on for this blue and the cyan colors that you will see going through in the newer ways as well, coming through as default still today. Even when we say that, okay, now let's make a color swatch so that I can use that instead, and we make the stream data from my primary swatch. This is the primary swatch that I defined here. And that looks pretty good. We get sort of a nice light theme. The dark theme is still actually totally crap. It didn't adjust the primary colors to be dark suitable, and it left a lot of colors in there. And also this primary color and primary color dark in theme data are not really our primary colors. That can be confusing. And if you go and think that you can then make it better by saying, okay, let's make a color scheme and a color scheme from a swatch. Now, what happens then is that you don't get any assignments on theme data colors. The colors that are here below are the direct color properties in theme data and the color scheme colors. So you don't get any assignment at all, and that can be quite confusing. It will get less confusing later because all these theme data colors in direct color properties in theme data will go away in a year or two. I don't know when. This one was a surprise for me. This is quite funky. If I do a theme data from with the constructor that creates a theme data from a color scheme, tell it to make a color scheme from the swatch colors I got down there, you get this really washed out gray colors, dark, and really the green color is coming through on the backgrounds and all this. This one was I don't think anybody has thought about, somebody might try this combination, but just don't. You can see it's totally washed out, the gray colors as well. Okay, now we are getting to this point. We're saying, okay, theme data. Okay, let's make. We have our color scheme, all the full definitions of that, and I just go theme data color scheme, and then my color scheme use that. But yeah, no. Theme data colors are not assigned, but the color schemes are beautiful, so that's fine. And the day that the Flutter framework actually only uses the color schemes, that will work beautifully. But that's not the case even in Flutter 3. It still uses some of the properties in theme data for a lot of widgets. So you have to still take care and make sure that you are assigning them. If you do then this one where you create a color scheme using the from factory. The from factory is a special factory that is designed to make a nice theme data object from a color. Then you are using a color scheme. It limits the amount of property, etc. So you cannot assign all properties. You have to do them with copy with when you do that. But then you get an okay sort of theme. You have the right dark mode. You can see now also, this is the first one where you see that your dark theme gets dark. If I go back to the previous one, it's more gray than dark. You can see how it switches a little bit to more dark, and that is because the only sort of factory that actually does that is when you are using the theme data from. Then you get that automatically. All those nice background colors that you had in your color schemes are actually assigned to some theme data colors that the widgets still use behind the scenes as their colors, and you get the correct dark mode. You don't have to use that. You can do all the tricks yourself in theme data, and we will take a look at that. Now, here is a funky new one. This one actually creates this theme from just one single color, and because I had in my definition used the seed color, and the color scheme was actually the color scheme you get when you seed from that color, the colors will be the same. But this one only needs one single color to create this theme, and it does a pretty good job. Just as good as the theme data from with all the dark and colors. But what happened to divider color? That is quite odd. It got really strong, and that is because this one, for some reason, assigns this color scheme outline color to the divider color, which I think is incorrect. I think it's a mistake basically in this one. They just made this one, and it's quite new, and nobody has pointing it out that said that, hey, in material If you look at the material tree guide, it says that, you know, the divider color should use surface variant, not the outline color in the color scheme. If I change it to use that and fix, then you can see outlines. And I had used the divider color as an outline on these boxes just to separate them a little bit. And when I change it to that, then it looks good. But what you can see still here on this, we going now to the last few one. That is this again is just a raw data. Yeah.
So I can see there's a toggle there. Toggle use material 3 and
Yeah,
it's
we
off.
will come to those.
Okay, okay. But this is not material 3, no?
This just the colors. This is not when it go to material 3. The color scheme is material 3. Yes, but when I toggle that material toggle there later that we will see in the demos, then it will set use material 3. Then the widgets will use the colors and behave differently than they do now. We will come back to that in the second part of the talk. So this now shows you again that you get this blue color and it didn't assign. So to cut the long chase short, we come to the sort of last option of them, which is basically the best one today if you want to make a team data from a color scheme and just from a seed color. So then you are using single seed color to make it, and it looks pretty okay. But what bothers me and has always bothered me when you look at this, you have this primary dark, primary light header, and the bloody toggles are still, you know, cyan. They have nothing to do with my team. And that has been like that forever. And the only thing you can do it about is fix it yourself manually. What I would like to see is that I said that, you know, I had that color scheme and seeded. I want those last colors in the team data also to get that colors. You can see now when I switch to, this is because I defined things myself the way I think it should be. So you have no color surprises in color scheme or in your team data. So if somebody uses a color property from your team data object in your system, it's going to be a color that gives you what is expected. In this one, when you use the resolution, actually, apologies for that, but it says there on the dark scheme, primary color, primary dark, primary light, and secondary and toggle. Those colors have nothing to do with the colors I got in my color scheme. So if somebody uses that in your app, you have surprises. And same with the primary dark and primary light, and they are not even on deprecation list. I tried to get the team to actually add them to the deprecation list to take them away if they're going to be blue. And these are all still coming from when we started with the first team definition, team data light, team data dark. You remember those blues and those cyan colors? They are still here. They shouldn't be, in my opinion, but they are. And the way to fix, of course, you make a few assignments to sort of apply the colors there, and then you get something that looks prettier. And this one is, by the way, if somebody wants to have a look, I think I have it here somewhere already running. Maybe in that one. Yeah. So this demo that you see here is available as a dartpad also if somebody wants to toggle them and use it. See, it's the same. It's same when I'm doing on web here. It's in dartpad. It's very slow. My laptop is not liking the streaming very much. It needs a lot of power for this weak laptop. But okay, there's a link to it where you can play with it. We will return to this, but a few words about this, about toggling all the teams. Let's go over. I used in this one, wrote the team data. To be able to toggle between the teams in this application, let's move to the app also, by the way. So I made this little application. I redesigned it a little bit. It's because it looked better like this. But here you can switch between the different ways of creating the team, and you will see what the widgets looks like as well. And yeah, if we switch to material 3, we get the material 3 design widget. We will come back to those in the widget. So to allow me to switch between all these different ways of making team data, I thought, since we mentioned the enum, I wasn't sure anybody was interested in that, but I thought, hey, I want to try this new enum thing. So I did that. This is just a very, very simple, ugly one to, oh, let me take the cursor away. This is just a normal enum. You have, I call these teaming ways road to team data. So road 1, 2, 3, 5, and the 7 that was fixed, and the 10, the last one. And I just made a enum that handles it all, and it became so simple and sweet to switch the teams out. It calls a number of functions to return the team data. It takes the brightness mode, and if I should use material or not, tree or not, as a toggle, and it calls, and there's all the different functions to make these different teams the way I presented them here today. And what is kind of cool is what happens when I want to make my team data that way, to show all the different teams that you show here. There's just teaming way, team, and brightness, and all I do is use a simple pop-up that just switches between the teams, all those teams. And so and it also the same enum is used in the pop-up, and also to switch to actual team data with this new smarter enums that we got. So I thought, let's try that, and we show that off a little bit to see what you can do with this new enum thing. And I must say that is really nice. But why it's really nice is because it gives you everything. This is all, by the way, stupidly in one big file, because I published it as a gist, so you can run it in a dartpad. But it makes it quite nice, because everything that is related to this is just handled here in this one enum. And yeah, there is a switch there, but you can't even forget a case. The compiler, of course, complains about it. So it's very, very easy to manage and handle. So I do recommend looking into this, enum. So I call it PP team data with an enum, because yeah, that was something you couldn't design like that before. So you saw now there's a lot of confusing ways to make this team data. And what happens if you look at the documentation? What does it say? What does, what do we see most? We see the counter app. When we make a new app, we get this, but yeah, that one uses actually primary swatch colors blue. That uses the old swatch based one that it starts with. And the cookbook that you can find where it talks about how to make team data, those official documents also do use the primary color, and it defaults to the swatch-based blue. And the team data API docs itself, it shows you how to make it from a color scheme and from a swatch. And it's like, what? Why? Then if you actually read some source code, there they say that, yeah, color scheme is the preferred way to configure colors. The other color properties, as well as primary color brightness and primary swatch, will gradually be phased out. Look at this GitHub issue. And then if you look at the team data from AppyDocs, it also says this is the recommended method to do it. As we move forward, we will converting all widgets implemented only use colors defined in the color scheme. So that's why I'm saying that all the problems with things not being defined in team data will eventually go away, but it hasn't happened yet. And it hasn't happened now in Flutter 3 yet, or even when you switch to Material 3.
Question.
So
Mike, question.
Yeah.
Did you check what the new template app uses?
No, I don't remember actually. I have tried it now recently, but I think it's yeah. I would have to. I can't say really, but most of the apps really use the wrong way to make team data. It gives you a washed out gray team as a dark team, and it has a lot of sort of issues in the color. This material team system update is quite interesting. This one is tracking all the things. You can see me commenting here as well. I am wearing a red additional colors to add to the list, and yeah, and then here also, linking this excellent comment. Okay, blah blah. So it's not lost. I think I've made some other comments about something about how to make teams. Yeah, it was basically this thing. It was an epic GitHub issue post where I talked about this. So it's moving forward, and I will be so happy when it's gone and the team data is cleaned up from all these color properties, because it's confusing to newcomers. Imagine you have, I'm going to put some nice colors in my application. I just go color and color seed and red, and yeah, but everything is not red or blue that I thought it would be. And when you're starting up, you don't go and look at the source code and what other of these 50 properties do I need to assign to get it the right way. The number 10 way of doing it there that I showed you, we are coming back to that now as a summary of what are the best ways to do it. So team data from a color scheme, and I have defined a full color scheme. It's quite good. That gives you the right sort of light and dark color scheme, provided that you have a good color scheme, of course, where you have defined all the colors. You are going to miss out on primary dark, primary light, and secondary header color in team data color. Luckily, there are very few widgets using that, but this circular avatar uses primary dark and primary light color. So those will be blue. They will not follow your team. And also, if you go to the dark mode of see that you have, they are all gray. And why are they all gray when you go to dark mode, by the way? This primary color and primary dark and primary light, when you switch to a primary color, your color scheme will remain the colors you go, but not in the dark. I have a theory, or actually I think it's pretty right why it is that way. Earlier in Flutter, the only way to make the up bar dark in dark mode was if they modified these colors in the team data. I made them triple like that, and no other component used those colors because they already used the color scheme colors. Only up bar was depending on that color. Now that's not relevant anymore because up bar has its own behavior and it's working correctly without those colors, so it's not needed. But yeah, if you want and make sure that you have nice colors, also a darker primary and light and etc. In this presentation that you will probably find online, or in this also gist in the dartpad, you can see what I assigned and did to it to get to look like this.
So Mike,
Oh, sorry, I had the dark ones too. I forgot.
yeah, one question. So this primary dark, primary light, they are new with material 3, right? Because they were
No, this that you see in team data colors, all the colors here that says team data colors, they are going to go away.
yeah,
But they are old colors that existed before, and all the color scheme colors that are above there. We will come back to all the colors there in my next sort of section here when we look at the color scheme, what they are and what they mean. Basically, everything, all the colors in team data should be gone, but they are not. They have been doing it for 2 years and they're still there.
So I remember primary variant, secondary variant, those things
Yeah.
from material
They
2.
are gone. They are gone. Yes.
But they are still material 2.
Yeah, they are the secondary variant, and those are gone in the new color scheme. They are deprecated, and they only get sort of default values that is equal to primary color. So those are. But we will come to these new things. But yeah, so you still need them to have them because there is still a few widgets that depend on the team data colors. But most importantly, a lot of the surface colors depend on it. So when you have defined your nice surface color in your color scheme, if they don't get assigned to the color properties in team data, you will not see the correct surface colors. That's why we had these washed out gray colors on some of the dark themes before when you looked at that. So that's a little bit of it. Oh, this is sort of a little bit sideline gotcha. There's a new switch coming in Material 3 that looks different. And also because the way the color defined in color scheme 3, using secondary color when you have made a Material 3 color scheme is not the right call even for the current switch. You really have to make it primary. And this new switch will actually use primary container and surface variant colors and a few others to make it look that way.
One question again. Maybe you will talk about it, but when you give a seed for color, how does it assign the secondary one?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. We will see all about the seeded color schemes and all the different colors in color scheme. That's like a long section that we are going to go into in actually the next section, right. And then after that, I think we'll break and we'll have a look about what the components are doing in Material 3. So yeah, it's important to choose the right part to make the team data for your colors. You can have made as pretty color scheme as you can, but if you don't assign them the right way to your team data object, you won't get the full benefit of them. So that's what my point with this is, going back to a little bit quickly here to show which one to use. So basically the number 6 and number 9 are the same. The only thing is that number 9 creates the color scheme for you from a single color, and in number 6 there you are creating it. You have a fully defined color scheme, which you can make with that nice theme builder that you have as a web app. That will export the color scheme from you, and you can just copy paste it, and you have done. You are done. There you have there are 28 colors in a color scheme, in the new color scheme, and then you have to define them from dark mode as well. So 56 colors, and they have to be nicely tuned and harmonic together. Doing that by hand is a pain and a big mess, so I don't recommend it. You really need a tool to help you sort of compute and calculate all these colors to make it look pretty. And as we will see for the component as we move forward, it's important that they are following the design intent of the material 3 color scheme. If they don't, things will start looking sort of messy and strange.
Mike, one comment. There was in one of the video, I don't know if you saw the video, I think it was in the video with Roddy, that they show the online tool that they have. I can't remember how it's called. Material.
I have it right here.
Yes. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, I already said the 28 colors and how to make a correct color scheme. That becomes the next question. Now we know where to put the color scheme and how to make it sort of work with my team data. The next question is, how do I make the color scheme? You can start with color scheme light or the color scheme dark factory. That works fine for material 2, but not so well for material 3 colors. You can do it the hard way. If you have a good designer who, you say, we will take care of all this, you just get a color scheme and you use it. Okay, then you know where to put it and how to get it to work for you. That's great. But probably the most thing people will be using when they start is just use the color scheme from seed constructor. You give it one single color and it gives you a color scheme both for light and dark theme that is fully seeded. It might not have all the colors you want and need, so we will talk about that a little bit. And then there is this beautiful theme builder somewhere. Where did I put that? Or maybe I just open it from here. Like that, yeah. So there is
this one, yes.
Yeah, there is the theme builder where you can make a color scheme as well. And what you do with that one is you just sort of select a theme, and you can see it created this, and you basically then just go Flutter, and you will hopefully see that come up here sooner or later. There we go. So there you get all the colors for that. That's simple. So if I do that and take the seed colors I used earlier, the green one. The green color I used is, by the way, one from Material 3 guide that I used here in this also. And I export the color scheme, I get the color scheme. If I make one with Flutter's color scheme from seed, I get the same color scheme, almost. One color differs. I don't know why. I don't think anybody has really looked at it that deeply before. But yeah, the algorithm that Flutter uses and the one that the web tool has a small discrepancy. I don't know, maybe it's some kind of web rounding error or something that causes it, because the color algorithms behind this tool, they are quite sophisticated. It's quite insane. And Flutter SDK has a new dependency on a package called Material Color Utilities made by the Material team. And if you look at the Flutter SDK, you can see it has very few package dependencies. But if you go into the color scheme class, you can see there is Material Color Utilities, and that is using this package from the Material team. That same package contains also the algorithm for Java and Kotlin or whatever they have in that same GitHub monorepo for it. So that is it. Also, if you want to look about making dynamic theme, what is a dynamic theme? That's where you have the wallpaper in Android, and it gives you that sort of data from the wallpaper, and you use that to seed, again, as input to the seed and make the color scheme. That's another package that's available, and you can use it if you want to look at it. It's called Dynamic Color, also from the Material team. Maybe I will look at about that. So Material 3 color scheme. Do we want to have a break now or?
No.
Okay. But then I continue with we take the color scheme and the Material 3 widgets. This was my second other breakpoint option.
Amazing, really amazing. So now we will have I would say 5 minutes break for mainly networking, because also networking is a 10 minutes break. Okay, thank you. Because also networking is part of the meetup, and it's part of why we are all here. And then we will continue with the second part.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be back soon.
Thank you, Mike.
No, I think okay. This guy will have the microphone anyway, so you can keep it.
So what do you want to say?
Just close it. It's yeah. I'm gonna take it. I was just gonna drink.
Well, go ahead.
Right.
Camera is there. Stage is your. Do you need this?
But you can do this. Yeah, just
Use
say
the
two
microphone
sentences.
also. Yeah.
Is this on?
Yes, it's fine. But do you want to use the mic?
Yeah, I can just use that. Test.
Hello, everyone. Okay, we are back live for second presentation, and then we will have again one small break, and then Mike will show us again the second part of his presentation. So now we are going to have mocking APIs using embedded web servers in Flutter apps. Stage is yours. Please introduce yourself. Let us
Thank
know
you.
where you're from and all of that.
Hello, I'm Eralp. I come from a company called Quick, and we do consultancy. Sometimes we make like React Native apps, Flutter apps, native apps, like all kinds of things. But this is about I was at a project and the backend wasn't ready yet, so we needed to come up with something to get going. And this is such a rare case where could mostly like happen in consultancies where you're there to build an app, but there isn't like enough resources, so you just need to like push through. This was such a case where I was the only like app developer, and then we didn't have a backend developer to develop the backend, so I needed some way of like going on. So I initially thought about like the side. I think did we? Yeah, it's I thought about making a web server on the side with Node.js or something, or I could figure out something else. For example, like hard coding the API responses into the app code, or I could use something like Mockito or something for like mocking the API responses in tests, but then how to get it to end user, how would end user see the responses like the UI, or I could just like, as I said, I could create a web server and run it like separately, or I had this other idea where I can just like put the web server into the Flutter app, which is I figured that Flutter has this HTTP API. I just want to try it. By the way, this is available as a blog post. If you go to that like QR code or like eralp.dev, whatever is next to that, you can read this, copy paste the code. It's not that much code, but yeah. So the options I had pretty much like I could hard code the responses into the code and paint the UI, see like how it works, and I could mock using the tests, which allows me to develop the like API like request handling code, but not really the HTTP parts. And then like if I make the web server in Flutter, can it even work? But like I could also like make a separate web server, as I said. If you look at the options, like easiest thing to do is to just like hard code the API responses into the widgets and then just like paint the UI. Well, it's easy. App UI behaves as expected, and everything can be done in the same code base, which is nice. You just like write Dart, and everything is in the same like project. Cons of this is that the code is not final, especially you don't have like serialization and then deserialization of the that part of the code. And then it's difficult to test like HTTP errors. What if like it responds with like 404 or something? And difficult to test like race conditions. What I mean by that is that like, what if a request like responds in a different order than you expect? Like, will it crash? What will happen? You can easily like, you should be like able to easily test this. And deserialization and serialization, like I said. Also, like working with mocks, pros are that like means that you actually write tests, which is super nice. And then you have the ability to test the HTTP errors. It's easy to do with like something like like Mockito or something. And again, like you have the ability to test like serialization and deserialization. And mocks are in the same code base as the app. That's also nice. And cons of this is that doesn't work in end user UI. They are just like tests, and your end user won't run tests. Also, like you need to run the tests to work with them. Also, you need to write and set up tests, which is again not too bad. And if you make a web server on the side with a different technology, with a different like project in Docker or something locally, just like run it on the side. Like then the pros are that like you have an actual web server, close as it gets to having a real API implementation. And the ability to test everything related to HTTP and REST, you can actually, that's a real web server. So like whatever goes with it, you have it. The ability to test HTTP errors, like we talked, that here you have them. Ability to test JSON serialization and deserialization. You can actually complete your implementation on the Flutter side, which is like nice. And cons of that is that like, well, you need to create a web server and need to know how to do that. For example, if you use Node.js, you need to run it separately and need to figure out how to get the correct port related to emulator. For example, like your web server runs on whatever port, and then the Flutter app needs to know that port to talk to it. And what if the port changes? How do you like communicate it with your like Flutter app? And if you distribute a test app into your like internal testers, then you need to have the web server running somewhere on the internet, and you cannot like easily take it down because like you don't know when will they test, or like you need to also like pay for it. Like there's like lots of details that you need to care about after. So I had this other idea where I can put that web server into the app. So the app goes with the server itself in it and serves the API to itself. Like, can it even work? And pros of this is that like the server runs inside the app. So the Android app, whenever you launch it, it just like serves itself a web server from localhost. And well, you get the same language and in the project, and it's very easy to develop since it's inside the Flutter project. And there's lots of shared code. You can like even reuse your like serialization and deserialization code. So you can just like use the same stuff you have already. Cons of is that maybe the port would clash with something, some other app inside the like the phone or something. But then you can change the port. The port that you have is inside your like project, so you can change your like API handling code to use that same port. So you have like full control over it. You can even make like a logic that like follows through some like port numbers until it can like launch the server. Like there's like many ways to solve it. And the implementation of it is that it's based on Flutter's own HTTP server. I think they used the same thing for like Flutter web targets as well for development. And this is just like what package I used is that this is a like convenience wrapper around Flutter's HTTP server, which is like shelf. And I'm going to show like how it's implemented. This is just like wraps the web server, but to make it really like Express style, like Node.js style, or Sinatra, Flask, whatever like backend technology you know, that kind of like routing, you get it with shelf router, which is, it really looks like apps routing system. And this is how it looks like. So we make a class called local mock API server. You put your like host and like port, and then also like the base URL, and you just like make constructor, and then you initiate the shelf wrapper. You you get it to like serve the router you have, and that's it. Like it just like serves your API. I left out the request handler code here, which is like kind of implementation detail. I'm going to show them later. On line 16, you also put here a log processor if you want to. I'm going to show that also. And to use this in your like main class of Flutter, you just like after widgets Flutter binding ensure initialized, you just like wait for your class to start the server. It's just going to run it in the background. And then you run the app, whatever like Flutter stuff you have goes after this. So this is to ensure the web server starts before you start the app, and the UI gets painted and stuff. So, and this is what you see on the logs. So doing this will start the web server in the background. It says like web server starting and it's serving on this port, and then you can talk to it from the app, and the app serves, once again, like app serves the server to itself. By the way, like you might have guessed that this is not intended for production. You delete all of these code once you actually have an API. So the request handlers, remember that I left out these like 1 and 2 points in line 11 and 12. So here we have the implementation of first one. This is one of the API handlers. This, if you are familiar with like Express or something, it really looks similar. So you just say like app.get this path, and then like handle the request. And then I made myself, I'm going to show them later, this like response extension, which responds with like, okay, which means 200. And then just for testing, I return back the access token that I sent to the API back, so I can just like see it. Yeah, this extension is like parsing the access token, requested access token, and I'm going to show them later. But this is how you basically make a API request handler. And the request handler 2, for example, this handles like /inventory path of the API and just responds with a list of objects, like key value objects. And if you want, this is based on the extension, so you can give it some delay, so you can test like delayed responses also. And request handler 3, here we handle a post request, which is like simulation of an account creation, for example. And then there's another extension I made, which like parses the JSON value from the request that you send. And again, just for testing purposes, it's just like parses the token from the body, and then like returns as an ID, which doesn't make any sense at all, but just have a different ID every time you send a different token or something. You can like do like whatever you want here. This is like you can also send like hard-coded responses like here, or something dynamic that you need for like UI testing here also. And the logger, which is not too important, but it's just nice to see when the API handles some request and you can see what it does with it. You can extend it however you want. This is like the place 3 that I showed you here on line 16. Before you start the server, it goes there, and logger. So whatever like logger you have, I have logger package from the pubdev, and you can log like if it's a error, then you log severe, it logs differently, whatever. You can just like implement your own logger here, anything else. And the extensions I have, which is like I made body JSON value extension on request, so I can just like parse something from the JSON in the body from the request. Also access token from the request. That's another extension. Also, I made a response extension, which is like JSON mock response, which which is used to respond with like JSON. I'm gonna show them next. This is the request extension. So um, like body JSON value, which like just decodes the JSON, awaits and like reads it as a string and then like decodes it and just like picks the param you have, like whatever. And access token, it parses the header, gets the authorization header, splits it from the bearer, and takes the last part, which is used to just get the access token. And the response extension is this is like a JSON mock response extension on response. So it puts some delay there, and then you can configure it if you want. It like encodes the JSON and responds with like OK, which is like 200 once again, and just sets a header, which is content type application JSON, just to behave like a regular API, like nothing suspicious in the point of like your app. And this is pretty much it. Like how it works is that your phone serves an API to itself, which if you think of it doesn't make any sense for production, but like just like going forward in the very early phases of prototyping an app, it's very simple to set up and like saves a lot of time. This is just an idea I had. Of course, like let me know what you think about this. And like you can distribute to real users if you really want to, which is kind of silly, but like and there's no security involved in this, like nothing really. Everybody can like connect to this API to your phone. They can like just be careful, just like don't distribute to like real users. The benefit of this is to develop the app without waiting for APIs to be ready. And also it's nice that like the API developers, you can share them this code and they can base their implementation on top of this, because the code really looks like every other like API server programming technology like Express, whatever. Um, and actually, I haven't tested this, but like you can make a web server with this. You can write the web server with Dart, and you can take this code, this prototype code you have, and deploy it in a, I don't know, via Docker or something to a server. And you can actually make the API with this if you really wanted to. But yeah, this is really, this is it. Um, this is available as an article also, so you can just like copy paste code if you want to, and it's available here. It's my name.dev, eralp/flutter-mock-api-server. Also, you can use the QR code. As I said, I'm from Quick, cool company. Check it out. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You.
Very good one. Questions?
Yes.
Yeah, like it looks very practical and very good for creating new apps. But have you tried using it for like if you already have an existing app and like the backend is there and but you are just trying to implement a new feature that you don't have the API for it yet? Like how was this integration between like the current app that lives in the web and also that you have like this new URL or new endpoint that you need to add? Have you tried this?
I haven't had that case, but just an idea I thought, which is a very valid case that you can use it to develop that also, like extending an existing API while it doesn't, that endpoint doesn't exist yet. What I would do in that situation, I would, in the router of this web server, you can relay the actual API. So you can set up the server in such way that you just implement the new endpoint, and whatever else just goes to the real API. So you just like pass through your own like fake API. Everything else than the new endpoint you are trying to implement can just like pass through, which I don't know how like cookies and session would work. You have to figure that out, but like, yeah. In short answer, no, but maybe.
Very interesting things.
Thank
Any other question? Okay, apparently not. So, thank you.
Thank you, Eralp. Now, before the next talk, just quick gifts. So, Alessio, thank you very much, first of all, for driving this.
Thanks to you and Bolt. Of
Yeah.
course.
So we have some gifts for you, and we will have 2 Volt bags. Can you bring them?
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah. So it's surprise what is in the bag.
Wow.
Okay.
So good.
Okay. So, Alessio, again,
I'm not
thanks.
gonna
And
swallow
can
it.
you please pick someone?
So if it's my name, it's by accident.
Okay. Who is this? Jukka
Jukka.
Keimanen. Congratulations. So,
I'm here.
I don't remember that I have never like won something.
Wow.
yes.
Nice.
Actually, there is a Volt sweatshirt inside and it's L. So I'm happy. Yeah, L size. Good. Enjoy. And then one more. I hope it's not the female one though. Anyway.
Let's try again. Again, if it's my name, it's by accident.
Or my name.
Or your name.
Okay. Ruman.
Oh,
Congratulations.
there he is.
Enjoy.
First time I've won something, so
Whoa.
Actually, we have dash winners from the previous and the Christmas meetup. Alex, right? And 2, okay.
1 and 2. Wow.
Okay, we gave 3 dash, so we ran out of those, so we don't have them anymore. Yeah.
How is your dash doing? All fine?
Yes. Okay, so Mike, I will set up.
Yeah, I need the headset
Yeah,
again. I'll
sure.
take that. Actually, you can put it on. Yeah, see? All right.
Okay, guys, get ready because now we have the second part of Mike continuing his material
All
design
right.
tree.
Yeah, let's get back to color schemes and material tree style color schemes. And actually, they are quite tricky. To make a material tree color scheme by hand is very demanding if you want it to be fulfilling the material tree design intent. And that is why the tools are available and why you can create them from seeds. But before we go back, let's take back a little bit. I think we all remember we had, material tree color scheme. Yeah, I can deal with that. It's kind of just, primary variant, secondary one, some surface colors. Good, easy. And then you go over to material color schemes. You're like, oh, bloody what? How many colors? And the tones and everything like that. And you look at this also, and then you have to do the same in dark mode. And there was a bit of a surprise actually in Flutter 3 because they added another color to it that didn't exist before. There's a new color called surface tint. It doesn't exist on the material tree design pages even, but it's in the color scheme in Flutter at least. So there's one more that you can adjust. And it can be quite overwhelming, I think, actually, when you start looking at all that. There we go, the slides. So if you think about it from that material through color scheme that we had, if I to it add a few colors, just to sort of get the whole thing filled up and a few tones, you can end up with something that would look like this if we again go back to what we had here. We had these colors, and we go back to adding a few more colors to it. Then we have this sort of old material through to baseline color scheme that yeah, okay, now I got a material 3 color scheme. And while it works and there are colors, these colors don't fulfill the material 3 sort of guideline about how you should use the color system. They have the incorrect tones and all these kind of things for it. So that doesn't really help us a lot when we do it. That's that's why you have to sort of say that, okay, let's then go back and say that I will use the primary color of this color scheme, and I'll use this seed color. And then you end up with something that starts looking like this instead. Now they look like this. If you seed it from that primary color, you get this. I use the primary color from the old material to example color scheme and use that as a seed to generate it. Yeah, it looks different. It changes from this to that. And it's easy to do because you can do it from a single color. Just one single primary color, one color gives you all this, both the light and the dark scheme. The same one, you always use the same seed color for the light and the dark scheme. And why that is, we will see in a few minutes. So this gives you that. But one thing you will see here is that it's no longer the same color even as primary colors that I used as seed. And we will see how to deal with that a little bit also. But okay, that's quite simple. But where do all these colors come from? What's happening in the background, there is this material color utilities that is calculating something that the material team calls tonal palettes. And for the primary, secondary, and tertiary, and the error colors, and 2 different surface colors, it calculates a palette of colors that always starts with black and ends with white. For every palette, there are 13 colors, including the black and the white, in this shade. This is automatically computed from that one single color you gave to it. All these palettes, you never see those palettes. You don't even have access to them. But I opened them up and so that I could have access to them and draw them in Flex Color Scheme and made some extensions so I can sort of tweak them and make some magic that you can't do. So what happens then is there is a fixed algorithm that says that primary light color is tone 40 of this palette, and so on, and the secondary container colors, and they all have their own mappings for it. And when you switch to dark mode, the same palette is used because it used the same seed color to calculate. It just picks colors from different indexes in this palette to the dark mode. So that makes them always match, sort of, and they are very nicely tuned together, the light and the dark mode, when you make the team using this tool. It's quite beautiful that way. I do like it, but everybody that saw this immediately will say, but how does it calculate all this and what happening, etc. There is a very sophisticated color algorithm around behind it. The source code is available. I was looking at it and say, okay, just as long as I know how to use it, it's fine. But you can see that the secondary color and tertiary, they are much more muted. It actually uses a chroma limit on the primary. It has to have chroma at least 48. It uses the hue from the color, and it has to have a minimum chroma of 48. And then for the secondary color, it actually uses the exact same hue. It just fixed the chroma to 16. And then for the tertiary color rate, we rotate the hue 60 degrees and we fix chroma to 24. And then we use those as the keys to calculate the palettes. And that's the magic. The error colors is just fixed. The neutral color, the surface colors, they also come from the primary color, but with a very low chroma. So we get hardly any colors in it, but a little bit of the primary color is still present in it. It's a little bit like the alpha blends that I do in my Flex Color Scheme package. The principle and the idea is same behind it, so that you get a little bit of tint of your primary colors in these surface colors. It's quite subtle here, and it's more pronounced in dark mode maybe. So that's what it's doing when you pick that up. But one thing that you noticed was that, yeah, when I do this, I don't have my primary. That will probably be my brand color if I'm doing a brand. We have the Volt Blue. You got to have your Volt Blue, right? Of course. And when you seed a color scheme from Volt Blue, you won't get Volt Blue as your primary color. And that is, of course, important for all branding. What you can do is you can say that, okay, create a color scheme light from the seed color, and for my primary, use that same color. You can override the colors. You can do it for all the colors, but you run into trouble when you do it for all of them. If you for primary, you can see it works pretty well here. If in this one, I have locked the color to the original primary one. It's similar to the hue and what it creates from it. So if I would have Volt Blue here as input to the seed and lock it down, everything else would look pretty toned and nice to it as well. And it's not a big problem. But once you start looking at it like this, say I lock a few more, I want my tertiary and my color to be locked to the teal green that I had there also. And if I do that, I run into problems because the tertiary container colors no longer match. So now I would have to start calculating and modifying those manually as well. And this is something you cannot do with the Flutter algorithm. If you use the material color building tool that you have on the web, there you can actually specify the separate sort of source color for secondary and tertiary and have it seed the colors from that as well. Do it with caution though, because primary and secondary color in material tree coloring and how it colors the components have a relation. They should be based on roughly the same hue. That is important, so that they are that. The tertiary can be something, whatever. But secondary and primary, they have a relation when it comes to how component will use it by default. Later we will see some of that. But yeah, here when you go with a material color building tool on the web, then you can get everything. But then you have to specify all colors. If you want to just lock primary with the primary seed color, that's fine. If you use a primary color and you want to lock the primary color to the exact brand color, that's fine, as long as you only lock the primary. If you start with the Flutter algorithm locking the other ones, you will not have matching colors for them. A little bit of a shameless plug, but with the Flex color scheme, you can just, in the UI, which I used to generate this, I can just, flip a few switches that I want, to lock those down to that one, and it anyway see it's a color that matches that. That's because I opened up the algorithm, so I could do some magic like that. So then you can do it in Flutter too, without using the material color builder. And so yeah. Then what happens when you use that? It calculates a different tonal palette using that as a source. That's not so important. Let's hop over that. One thing that you notice with this tonal algorithm calculation, it gives very earthy tone for everything except the primary color. They are quite, earth-like, soft tones. And that's just the way that algorithm works. You cannot even change that material coloring unless you do what I did and extend it. So with the Flex color scheme that I used, you can modify the parameters for the seed, the tonal palette calculation algorithm, so that you get more bright colors for the other primaries and secondaries when you seed colors too, if you want to do that. And you can even customize and make the algorithm totally your own there as well. We can even take a look at that a little bit. Here is going into some, okay, we have this. Here is now starting up with this old material 2 color scheme, and we're going to seed this now and say seed generated the seeded color scheme from it. Here you see what we got then. You switch to the dark mode, you have the dark ones that we saw. And this could have been any color. Now if I want to lock and keep this as my primary, I will just toggle this so I get it to lock that one, and I can use the primary container as well. But that one is quite ugly, the original source, so that is much better like that. But say we had that, that's so not pretty. Oh, this works a little bit better. So these are the material 3 calculated tonal palettes. And if I hover over this, you will actually see there somewhere. Oh, sorry, here. Yeah, when I put my mouse over this, you can see it highlights where it has picked the color. This is because I wanted to, get a little bit of a feeling for them, where these colors are coming from. So when you use this tool, you will be able to see that where is every color coming from like that. Now it's using this tonal palette generation, the material 3 color algorithm. What you can do with this tool, if you want to go fancy, you can change it up. Now it made them, you see, a little bit even more muted if I switch back. But you can also go the other way and say, I want more bright colors for everything. And then when it seeds and generates the colors, you get much brighter colors here. The tertiary are now much brighter. This you cannot do with the material theme builder or Flutter, only with this flex color scheme tool that I made. So you can completely customize how it generates the tonal palette. So if you want to tweak it, you can tweak it as much as you want. And then when you are done, you just copy paste the code and paste it into your theme, and it's done. And everything else you can do it. So, but that's it's quite complex. And also, yeah, I said this one is now using just the primary key as input to seed, but I can say that I want to use my source color for secondary and tertiary like they were, and that's what I was doing there. This you can do with the web theme builder, but not in Flutter or with flex color scheme. You can
Mike, is tertiary is like a third color or what?
Yeah, it's a third color that you are using. That one is more for effects and things like that. If you look at the talk that Alessio mentioned at Rodi, there they are using it also as an example of where you can use it. It's I don't think very many components in Flutter will start using that. They will use primary and secondary and primary container, secondary and on container and on secondary container. These colors are used a lot. The tertiary is more like for your effect color.
Do you know any widgets that use tertiary color?
No, I haven't seen any yet.
Okay.
We will see that, but yeah, it's there because you can use it, as an extra effect. You can apply it, and of course, you still have limited colors. What if you have like 5-10 colors that you want to have for your brand usage, maybe for charts and graphs and things like that? Now with theme extensions, you can easily add them to your theme as well, and I will show that as well. Let's jump back to the presentation. So the tonal palettes and the algorithms are quite complex and difficult to deal with, and I made sort of an extension on this material color utilities, the core palette algorithm that they do. They made it really difficult to extend, by the way. They had just one small sliver of an API interface into it that they could extend to get into it. But I consider actually making a copy and doing it, but yeah, it works as an extension of it as well. To read a little bit more written information about what the tonal palettes are, etc. I also documented it in the Flex Color Scheme docs. A lot of things in this document, even if you wouldn't be interested in using the package, there's a lot of useful general information that I've written down about theming and things like that that you can read in the guide there as well. That might be more generally curious and interesting. So let's move over a little bit to what we have been thinking about. That okay, now we have seen how we make all these colors, etc., and where we put them in theme data. Now we will look about what are the components doing with these colors and how they are using them and what's happening with them. So Flutter 3 was launched at Google I/O. Do we now have Material 3 support? Yeah, not quite. There's some there. There is this flag in theme data. I'm sure you have probably all seen this theme data use Material 3 true. Right. And there you go. Done. Let's see what happens. So if you go to actually that property and its API documentation, it will tell you that these components are now available. Floating action button, elevated button, outline button, text button, app bar, navigation bar, rail, card, material, alert, dialog, and also the stretching overscroll indicator. So when you set that to true, these components will get different look and behavior than they had in Material 3. And this is all done there in Logic. And when you look at the source code, it's much nicer actually nowadays, the way they get their defaults. They actually generate the defaults. They extend the component theme via some automation that they've written, and they get the default values from that. And they created the same equivalent setup for Material 2. So that toggle just selects between these two different component themes that it uses as a default component theme, which finally makes it much nicer to find out what the defaults are. Before they were spread all over the code.
Okay, so we have been talking all the time about colors, right?
Yeah.
So use Material 3 true. Does it have effect on shape?
Yep.
Text,
everything. We will look at the details for that now.
Okay.
So this is Material 2, and let's for fun jump into this application here a little bit. Put that here on the side as well. Now I'm using this color scheme that is the material tree color scheme, etc. And we are seeing this now. Let's switch over. This, when I click this, it actually changes the toggle to say use material tree, and whoa, things change. The boxes get round. My cards, those were cards. My app bar changes. Things look different. And if you before these fabs don't actually look so pretty, and the color looks all wrong. But
Don't
now,
judge the fabs because Material 2 doesn't have these big fabs.
yeah, actually, yeah, the fabs exist in Material 2 already. All these big fabs already exist. These are now Material 2. They have increased the super big fab is new.
Yes.
But it exists also now in Material 2. You can use it in Material 2 as well.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's there. Actually, I had to look for it as well. So I was missing it before, and then oh yeah, there's that. It's just another constructor.
But what do you think? Is it really too big?
Yeah, but you don't have to. You can give it another size if you want. It's not no big deal. Or you can use the smaller ones. You don't have to use this super big one if it doesn't fit your design. But then when you switch, you can see the color change, the sort of the elevation is a little bit different, and the shape, and all the other buttons too. If we, so I have them there also. Ah, yeah, I didn't switch that to. Let's go dark also and see what happens. So yeah, now you can see here. I'm not so happy about the dark color for the fab. It looks a little bit too strong. I don't know what. I would have liked it a little bit more bright. But remember before when I switched to Material 2 fab is secondary color. And secondary in Material 3 color system design is always very muted version of primary. It doesn't fit very nicely on a fab or on a switch for that matter. It fits even worse on a switch. That's why I had a little bit notice there that if you are doing a Material 3 design, color design, you should probably consider putting that toggleable active color to primary instead, so to have a more bright color on it. So, and this application we are looking now there is available as a dartpad, so you can run it and play with it, and yeah, I have a link to it here in this presentation. So let's look about, okay, that's a fab, that's what's happening to it. It gets all that. Once you get used to it, I say it looks pretty okay. The big one is way too big for most things, but okay. Other than that, yeah, okay, fine. So then we have these classical buttons, the material buttons or basic buttons. They talked about common buttons in the Material 3 guide. This is the new buttons. The old buttons were, by the way, supposed to be deprecated, and they are deprecated, but they were supposed to be completely removed from the source code. But somebody that follows, if you follow my tweets, you can notice that I tweeted that only the old outline button is removed. The flat button and elevated, no, what was it called? Raised button, flat button and raised buttons, the old style material. They still exist. They were supposed to be removed, and I asked about them and I said, yeah, we gave them a little bit. I think they just forgot. Yeah, no. Tim and Kate.
Yeah, Tim actually tweeted exactly that, right? Raised button was supposed to be deprecated.
Yeah, they should be deleted. I mean, they have been deprecated for 2 years probably already, but they're supposed to be deleted from the source code, but they are not. So I showed it there in a dartpad. I said, hey, there they are still. But okay, so what happens when you here put it to true is you get this fully stadium rounded. This is called like a stadium edge when you have a full half circle on the edge for the buttons. And we can go back to this. Let's make it light mode and toggle here also between it. You can see they look like this, and we get the stadium look on them. Okay, that works. And again, you can see a big change. The elevated button, the default one, is actually again using this very light background color, which comes from, I don't remember which one it is, but some on primary or something like that for it. So it's very, very, very different from what it has been used to. And if you look at the Material 3 guide, you can see we have elevated, outline, and text. If you look at the Material 3 guide, it's supposed to be filled and tonal. I was thinking, are they missing? Yes and no. Flutter team has also made a demo of all these applications, and you can run it online as well. It's available as a web app that you can try and look at them. There you see them. So I looked at the code for it, and you actually have to make them yourself from elevated button. And you know how nice it is to theme these with style from and you know this material state theming that you have to do with them and theme them. So it's not so. I don't know why they're not gonna. If they are going to make dedicated constructors for this, it's just a small variant. But if everybody is going to start making their own small composed widget to make the fill tonal and the tonal button, why not put them in the framework if they are there in the material tree? But at the moment, they don't exist as dedicated buttons, but you can quite easily make them from that. And that's like, okay, all right, it's that way. Yeah. Okay, let's look at UpBar. UpBar is partially supported. Mostly it is. And when you, again, let's do it the nice way. When you switch and look at the UpBar, you can see the default thing is no longer to have this green thing on an UpBar, and also in also much darker in dark mode. That's what happened to UpBar. But there's one new thing with it. When you scroll an application, it changes color. And that's built into the default UpBar behavior. That's just to show it better, because now it's the same as a surface color. And this is like an iOS design. You see this design a lot of iOS. And I've been doing my apps like this also for forever. I like it a lot better. But usually I put sort of this frosted glass opacity or something like that on top of there as well when you do that. You can't do that in a theme though. But yeah, so that's new in it. But what's missing is there is also supposed to be this Jumbo or big UpBar that is a lot wider and higher and things like that. This UpBar is, by the way, a few pixels higher than it used to be, and it uses a font that is also a little bit bigger, a font size by default. Of course, all these things you can change. So yeah, that is mostly available, and the scroll under behavior is there. I did see a few GitHub issue bug requests about the scroll under behavior that was some certain condition that it didn't work under. Now, this is the first Material 3 design component that we saw quite a while ago, the bottom UpBar, and it doesn't look so pretty, right? It looks.
I think it's pretty.
Yeah, but this is because this is how we have seen it with the material design scheme and the colors. Now, when you switch over, now it looks much better. It's subtle, but now it looks okay. Just a small font change and a few color tweaks, and suddenly it's quite nice. We can see that here. Also, we can see the same on the navigation bar. This is the old style, and when you switch over, it becomes much more compact and smaller and using the same things. I do, of course, have them here as well. Let's switch it. Yeah, it's in Material 2. What are we looking for? Yeah, there they are. So now if I switch, you can see. There we have it. And in this mode, with this color scheme. And same thing happens here with the rail. Really like this in Material 2, and I switch it to Material 3. Oh yeah. So those are quite ready and available for use right now when you switch.
Before that,
yep,
we had a discussion over Twitter saying about the batches for button navigation bar batch. So you have how many notifications, for example, in batch item.
Ah, yeah, the badge on it, yeah.
So I think still we need to use a package for that, or we write it by ourselves. Still, there is no support for that.
There is quite a nice package for it, but which probably, I think it's even a favorite, isn't it?
Yes.
So I would probably look at that, because making a good one is a little bit tricky.
Yeah, but exactly, making a good one is tricky, and it is actually in material design guidelines.
Yeah, why doesn't they don't include it?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
A good question. Maybe because it's tricky.
Yes.
So the card is available. Looking at that, what happens to it if we start with Material 2? You can see here we have material. No, those are the cards. Those were material. These are just the plain simple card. What happens when you go to this is it gets the corner radius is quite things, and they get a color tint as you increase elevation. Are we somehow? It's not updating screen.
demo effect.
Okay. No, it is updating. Sorry, the screen colors are very bad, by the way. They are not as they appear on the screen. You would be seeing here a color tint on this in reality on my screen that is more color accurate. They get this green tint from the surface color here as well that you don't see.
Actually, it is visible on YouTube much better.
Okay. It's the projector only.
Exactly.
All right, good. Good for those that watching on YouTube. Thanks for letting me know that they can see it. Okay, then I don't have to explain as much. But all right, so that's happening on that, and also in dark mode. There it is more visible here, so also on the projector. So to indicate elevation, you get more of your primary color mixed into the surface of an elevated surface when it comes up. That's a new material 3 feature. You can also, one of the new colors that was added in Flutter 3 was surface tint, so that you can have, by default, it's primary, but you can put whatever you want there. Of course, don't, but you can. But because you can, unless you have a good color eye, you probably shouldn't. So yeah, and that is quite okay. But what is missing from, if I forgot to say that also, if you go, maybe we can just do that, I was going to say, if we go to the material color design and look at cards, there they are. You will see that it has elevated, filled, and outline. Now these don't exist, filled and outline. You can make it. You have to just put the shape border and the color to the right tonal fill. But it's like, if these are going to be elements that are supposed to be used in the material design a lot, why don't they offer some default, some constructors for making a card that is that way? Now instead, everybody is going to go and make their own composed widget version of it to fulfill the material design. I would like to see filled and outlined, as a separate constructor.
Maybe it's coming.
Well, I would say maybe not, because when you look at the Google's application that I showed you here, we can go back to it. Maybe I have it even open somewhere. I can maybe quickly open it if I go back to where it was. There it is. I wonder if this one just goes to the.
It took them years to enhance a GNOME, so give them time.
Yeah. I remember there was a try it live or something like that somewhere. Oh, where was that? Yeah, but if users can switch, does anybody see immediately where I could launch this? Because I remember I saw it as a launchable web app link somewhere. Okay, but not now. But anyway, you can see it here also, and in this source code, I had a look at, because when I was thinking I'm missing something, because I didn't see all these components there, but they made them. No, they have just made them manually. So, and they are presenting them. That's ready. So maybe that's it. Then everybody is going to make their own version of it. They might add them later. I hope so, because it would be nice to have them ready. Then for some strange things that is going on in this, material is reported as supported as well. And yes, it does. But unless you specify when you do a material, which is, by the way, used for a lot of the surfaces and things that, you draw things on in Flutter, the canvas that you draw on things on, like in a bottom bar is using material, bottom sheet, and the drawer and all these things are using material underneath, under the hood. And unless you specify the shadow color for it and the surface tint color, you don't get any elevation at all on material. None. Even if you set elevation 20, and if you haven't given it a shadow color or a surface tint, there is no elevation. And that is kind of new. And okay, it works if you do it, but there's no theme for it, so you can't assign it in a theme. You have to do it per widget. It doesn't even use the theme data properties. So I found that a little bit peculiar for the material. It's supposed to be a low-level component, but at least I use it quite a lot when I build some custom widgets, because, we start with material and we put things on it, and it can have shape and it can elevate, it can have borders. And so what happens then, of course, is when I looked at dialogues that are ready, on the left you have material 2 dialogues, and no matter what I do to the dialogue, they don't elevate, not at all. And maybe they're not supposed to be. Maybe they're just on that, backdrop shadow, and that's fine. That's what it looks like, at least when I looked at them. But what makes me say that it's maybe not entirely true
is because when I looked at this application also, and I wonder where it was, but I think it was a little bit. When they are changing in the menu here and they open the menu, there you can see it quickly when it passes by there. There was no elevation on that menu either, and that looks plain wrong, and that's not how it's on the material 3 pages as well. Yeah, it has the menu has elevation if you look at it. And if I go into this application as well, let's make it light again, and yeah, we are in material 3 now. So when I open this you can see this menu has no elevation and it looks not right. Yeah, it must be a bug. That's why. So I'll probably report yet another bug. I'm quite famous for reporting those. I think it's sort of let's call it a design oversight. So yeah, and I've highlighted the code segments that are wrong, but okay. Another new feature, and I'm not going to open it. I built this also for a mobile app. When you can just see the animation here. When we switch to this is yeah, you can see the scroll under here also on a device, and you can see it now has this stretchy elastic thing. So that's it, and you get the fonts. The new, when you switch to use material, you go from these humongous things to something that is more usable. That's probably much the summary of that. Yeah. Yeah.
And that stretching thing is actually specific to Android 12.
Yes. But
And
no, not in Flutter. In Flutter, you
yes,
can
exactly.
in Flutter,
Because
you can
Flutter
use it on
is
other things too.
pixel-driven
Yes.
architecture.
Yes. So your older Android devices can do it with Flutter, but not natively. They cannot.
Yet another way of identifying Flutter, done
Yeah.
with Flutter.
Yeah. So there is a umbrella issue tracking all, what has been done. If you go and look at it, you can see that roughly 50% are registered as done in the material 3 migration. So you can certainly start using the components, but you're going to have a bit of a mixed bag design if you do it already now. So maybe not. And okay, extended team. We don't have so much time for it to talk about it, but what is it? It's basically a way for you to add additional properties to team data that behaves like the component teams that have there. So you can access them to team data of context, your team of context, and get access to these properties. And when you change team from light to dark, or just change to another one with different property values, everything animates and lerps between the different sizes and values like you have in the real team data. So here is an example of that. If you are running short of time, I won't demo it because I would have needed to uncomment a few things in the code to show it to you. But it's there in that in that thing and how to use it. Running a bit. So yeah, that. Do we want to see how it works, or is it? It basically first thing you do is, just as a short summary, you make you have to extend the team extension, and the class is sort of a type of itself there, and you just give it a few final properties like a color, elevation, or radius, and you have to override the copy with method and the lerp method, and the lerp one is the important one that it's using the team data is using when it's animating a team change, and then you can define a few sort of, these are just like component teams, like just your app bar team or something like that. Okay, fine, you define them just as const, that. And then what you do is you can then there is an extensions property in team data now, where you just sort of plop this in, just like the component teams, and say there is my light header card team and my dark header card team. And then what you do in your custom widget, that is a composed widget. I was going to show it, but we can see there you just, how you access it is team of context and the extension, and then the header card team, and then you have access to that particular one, and you can have many different types in there, as many as you want, and access them. And after that, you just have access to that color like any team property, and it's completely usable. And you can use it as here you can see I'm using like header color my team style, and if not, use some fallback from other properties, etc. So quite simple to use, and really it should have existed a long time ago. Okay, so that was pretty much all I have time for. Just a shameless plug. If you don't sort of want to do all of this manually, you can always try Flex Color Scheme. It contains a silly amount of ready-made themes that you can just, copy paste and plug in, and you can adjust border radius and all kind of detailed color shades and stuff like that for it. And it has its own documented sites. It's a Flutter favorite. And when you are ready to use the theme, you just copy the code and paste it into your theme data, and the theming done.
Wow.
That's it.
Thank you very much. And this is definitely a reference talk. So you don't have a chance in a conference to have such long talk.
No.
But this is a reference talk. So on Twitter, when people ask you questions, just send this link. Watch this video. And that was amazing. We have many questions.
Yeah.
I have many questions. Anybody has any questions about Material 3? Okay. Wait.
Not a question, but a request mainly. Can we have slides so that we can check for reference?
Yeah,
basically?
I will make them available. I will tweet a link for you to download it, and the playground where you can see what is available. Actually, that one will be quite handy. The one that I showed you is available as a dartpad, because when Flutter is updated, you just run it again, and you can see what has changed in that little thing. So I will make that available also if you are following me, read Mike on Twitter, put a notification, then you'll get a link to the presentation and the dartpad.
Any other questions do we have? Okay, I have questions, but I can ask them maybe after this in a more relaxed way. Yeah, like I was wondering, is Material 3 introducing any other shapes? Like we have this rounded rectangle, or I don't know. Why is it obsessed with round?
It's also obsessed with rounds that most components have different rounding. It's not one single border radius. The bigger a shape is, the bigger the radius is, except for the buttons that is supposed to be round all the round. And also on the floating action button, by the way, you cannot make those shapes with a theme. If you make a themed fab, they will all have the same rounding. If you want to sort of override it and say, okay, I don't like this border radius, I want a little bit less, but then you get that little bit less on that Jumbo one as well. And there is no way to give that via a theme, a separate sort of theme. You can make, of course, a custom widget for it and blah, blah, blah. But that is a little bit annoying. And I find it because they bake in this behavior into the widget, in the logic that now it has no theme. This small one will have this radius and the big one will have this. But when you assign it to a theme, you can only give one and they all get that same one.
Shoot.
Because then it checks, oh, there exists a theme, then use that for everything.
Okay.
But you cannot adjust it. The same thing applies to material banner, for instance. You can have a banner that comes from top that is attached to the top that's supposed to be straight, but then when it comes loose, it's supposed to have rounding. But if you put a rounding, it applies to them all.
Okay.
So, and yeah, drawer, the menu drawer on the side. That's another one that is a little bit tricky also. They're probably going to bake behavior into that so that when you use it, it gets the rounding on the side. But a drawer is tricky because you can have the drawer as a drawer and as an end drawer. Now it has two sides. And then when you have directionality, they are reversed. Always the edge should be on the visible side. And there is only one theme property value for that shape. And there is no way to tell it when it's being used where and in what directionality.
Okay, I can see that you have a lot to talk about Material 3. You can write a book about that.
Yeah, I did. The doc site is already a book.
You already wrote so many books, public and private.
Let's suggest Google Material Mike.
Material Mike, this sounds good.
Yes.
So,
And yeah, last question to Mike. Are you happy with Material 3?
Yeah, I think it's nice. Especially
Is it better than Material 2?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the colors and everything. It's really nicely designed, very subtle, and to create something like that takes real sort of good color eye and insight to it. What will be challenging is to make it easy for people to use it and get used to it. Of course, with the theme builder and my own tool, etc., at least you can do the coloring of it and get it right. And they won't look correct until they are all done and be ready to use. Because of that, you will have a little bit of mixed bag if you try it now. So maybe if you're building a production app and you want to have a Material 3 color style now, you're not going to get it quite right. You can use my package, then you get color Material 3 style on everything.
Material Mike. Yeah. Okay, last question. When do you think we will see in the apps that Material 3 is used in production app? What is your prediction?
I think end of the year.
End of the year, you will
Yeah.
see production apps using Material 3.
Yeah, maybe Flutter.
Okay.
If we're talking about that, all the widgets should be available. Of course, if an app is only using a select few and a custom, theme then to look Material 3 alike, then we might see them a little bit earlier.
Okay, I have one more question, last one, I promise. So if I use Material 3, if it gets the color from the seed,
Yeah.
do I lose the brand identity in the app?
No, if you lock the primary color to your Volt color, then you will be. But I don't know, what do you do for dark mode? You can also lock it there.
Well, it's a B2B app. We don't have dark mode.
Okay. Yeah, if you can definitely use it. Just override and use your Volt color as the seed and put primary color to the Volt color, and it should be pretty good.
Thank you very much. And I have more questions. I will ask them in the networking time.
Yeah, sure.
So big clap for Mike because it was really, really
Yes.
amazing.
Reference talk.
I have a material mic, like you said.
It's better than the other one you used before.
Better than, I'm not gonna say, but magic mic. I have a yes/no question for you.
Okay.
I want to link to what we were discussing before, go back to the Google I/O, and then wrap it up for all of us. Then we basically call this a meetup day, and then we can stay for networking because we have beers to drink and wine and whatever you like, and it's nice to talk to each other. So the question is, it's a yes or no question. So because I know that you are very synthetic, so I make a yes or no question.
Damn.
But do you think that Material 3 was ready for production, ready for prime time? It's a yes or no question. Be honest.
In Flutter, no.
In Flutter.
No. In Android, yes. Yeah, I don't have any experience, but all the components and widgets are available. So I don't.
Oh, you don't know about Jetpack Compose?
Yeah, Jetpack Compose. Yeah.
So this just to put it a little bit in the context of what I have in mind. I think that the Flutter team, let's remember, it's a very, very small team. And in my humble opinion, it's doing extremely great job with a very, very small team and few resources. That's my honest opinion. When I saw Material 3 like this, ready in Flutter and just use it and all of that. And then I hear you and this type of very, picky comments on what works and what it doesn't, which are great, obviously. Then it reminded me, I saw this to happen before already. And I think, was it with Elliot I was talking before? I think it was towards when Flutter 2 was released, that they put the web to be prime time. Remember the web? Does anyone remember here? So the web went into production in the release branch, in the stable master, and
it was still called beta though. It was available in the stable channel, but they called it beta.
Stable as beta.
Yeah, stable as beta.
But still, it was advertised as a big thing, which I do understand. So my point here is that I guess most likely the Flutter team, which is relatively small, has many stakeholders, and some of them are inside Google, and some of them are outside Google. We are also part of that stakeholders. So they need, I think, to keep a balance in between survival balance, I would call it, because we know how big corporations they work. Any team can be dismantled in like 3 days. No harm attached, no string attached, and no harm done. So I guess they try to promote that web was ready back then, and now they try to promote that it's Material 3 ready, and most likely most of it is.
Yeah, it's like the step say is like 50% ready. Okay, a little bit more maybe depending on, because the most common components there are sort of less common components that are not ready. And sure, you can use it if you are prepared for maybe making a few components, look like Material 3 like, that they are the same. Like the switch is not ready. I mean, there's a completely new, insane looking switch that is quite beautiful. Actually, it's fun to play with. Yeah. So that one is not, but then you have to be prepared, make a few tweaks yourself, and also be prepared for that, things might break and you will have to change it when they actually finally release the things. If you are ready to do that, then by all means use them. It's not like it's not working, it's just it's not complete.
And this is also a part that I personally really like. Generally speaking, Google has this approach of early validation on the market.
Yeah.
So when the product, it doesn't need to be 100% completed, but it's working almost fine. Then they release it, and then they iterate over it, and then they fine tune it, and then they tweak it and all of that. So at least for me, I've been waiting for a GNOME's improvement many years. No big deal, because I was writing them myself.
Yeah.
And now that it's there, I will just remove my own written part, and then I will use it. So I think it's a nice approach. And related to this, one more comment I have, it's that I wanted to mention, that this is the first time ever that Flutter was mentioned in the keynote. I don't know if anyone here realized this.
Yeah.
So this is part of the, I guess, Flutter team survival mode. Now finally, before they were there, they did presentations and they did comments, but they were never presented, because of course Google has always many products that they compete internally and externally for the same place. So he has Android, but he has also Chrome OS, and he has also now Fuchsia coming, and he has also Flutter. And
but it means that Flutter has grown tremendously, and it's very popular, and now it is a force inside Google already. Also now that they recognize it, that they have to talk about it in the keynote. I think it was Philip that mentioned it in his YouTube, that this was a big thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also Philip. No,
Yeah.
what is that?
he said that in his review.
And if you don't know Philip from
Rashek, or what's his something like that, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
I don't even try, but he's a very nice guy from he was in Flutter team until 1 year ago or something like that.
Yeah,
little bit less, and now he's out of the Flutter team. So now finally he can give us his own personal opinion on what he knows from the Flutter team, and also about Flutter and all of that.
And he made a cool thing that was announced also on Google I/O and the Flutter, the game framework.
Is it part of his job?
Yeah, he made the sort of game setup framework for making these kind of casual games with Flutter. Not the flame animated things, more like this for turn-based things or whatever you want to do for a game setup. All the things that you need to build a game with Flutter. So that's available as a public repo, as a sort of a starter template for making a game with Flutter.
Yeah, game is another part that I consciously didn't touch, but it was present at Flutter I/O. Google, sorry.
Yeah.
Google I/O. That was a good one.
So there was this little flipper game too,
Yes.
But that was made with Flame.
That was Flame.
Yeah.
So I guess we will call this. So wrapping it up, we saw what it was presented at Google I/O in a very high level. Then we went through a little bit of the Flutter content that it was part of the Google I/O. Then we saw two wonderful presentations, and now we will close this meetup, and then we will continue here locally in Helsinki. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. And thank you also on YouTube for joining us.
And hopefully to see you next time in CodeMate.
Yeah. Oh, he's still here.
Yes. Thank you very much.
He's working, so
guess,
let's not bother him.
Wait a second. Guess how long did it, like, how many hours has it been until now? We started.
We started
Don't
almost
look
five.
at it. Okay. It's 3 hours, almost 3 hours again. So thank you very much. You can leave now, but you can stay for networking. Let's get to know each other.
Yeah,
Thank you for your patience.
And thank you for the YouTube viewers.
Thank you, everyone.